Hi, I'm Mikaila from yours truly. I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
I've been super excited about your band. I've been anxiously waiting for this debut album to happen, and it's crazy because I can't believe that it's debut album. So how exciting is it for you guys to finally be able to put out that full body of work?
It's so exciting. We're so ready to have it out into the universe. It's been something we've been talking about since we started the band, so it's a very surreal moment.
As you guys have been preparing for this debut, you guys have been releasing a few singles here and there, most recently Undersize. What has been like that creative process for this record?
I think with choosing singles for this record, it was very much showing all the sides of the album, because I like to think that it's very everywhere. Like, we tried to really explore everything. So we've had so many songs to release before, the whole album comes out, and it was just like, what's going to showcase what self-care is the best. And I think that's why like Undersize was the latest single, because it wasn't a very typical choice for a single, but I think it's right in the middle of the album. It's like that middle song, and we just thought that it would be like something cool to show everyone before the whole thing is out.
Now, I know back in March, you guys had posted a picture of the studio with something along the lines of like being done or something like that, right? So like, have you guys really, like, when did you guys finish this record, and like how are you guys able to just sit on it until the release?
We really did finish it in March. So we started in February. Like, it went like, we were there for maybe like 5 weeks, February to March, and I remember finishing it like 2 weeks before started. So I remember this being like, okay, so now we really have nothing to do, and we're sitting on this album and it's done and we can't do anything about it. Like, that was just the weirdest part of it all. But no, I think we're lucky that it hasn't been that long since we recorded the album. I know lots of bands that like record and don't get to release for like a whole year, and it's been a couple of months, so it hasn't felt that bad, but we've been eager to do things.
Did the recording process change from the Afterglow EP? Like, did you guys do anything completely different, or worked with a different producer? Like, what was different this time around?
This time we worked with the same producer. So, and it was the first time we had worked with him, was during the Afterglow EP. So we were all really excited to go and work with him again. And I think that we took a lot of the things that we learned from Afterglow and then kind of took them into self-care. And I think that really like benefited us by like working with someone that we already knew. And then we just tried new things. Like, we tried writing in different ways, and like, like, I think with the EPs and the past things that we've done, we've always, done tracks, and then I've written things and stuff. But this time was a very collaborative process. So we all sat in a room and played together, which I think our favorite songs came out of.
And did you feel that your vocals were different this time around? Did you challenge yourself a little bit more on this album?
I think so, because now when I sing these songs live, I'm like, whoa, these ones are so much harder than Afterglow. Why did I do this to myself? But I tried, like, melodically, I think I listened to a lot of different music this time. I think that, I was listening to a lot of like singer-songwriter and like a lot of pop music, and there's a lot of like, Lockie and I really wanted to have like country influences and stuff on the album, whereas our past stuff has been like, let's just make it pop punk. And yeah, but this time we really just like branched out and listened to different things, and I think you can hear that, especially in the vocal melodies. They're not like typical like of what we would have done before.
Are you guys kind of like leaving the pop punk world into a more mainstream kind of sound, or you're just testing the waters with different sounds?
We really tested it for this album, and I think, your first album is a really good place to kind of find who you are and where you want to go. And I think we definitely spent 10 songs kind of figuring that out. And when you hear the whole album, you can hear there are some songs that are heavier, there are some songs that are poppier. And I think that we don't want to leave the whole pop punk thing behind, because it's, it's what we love and it's where we started. But I think this album is definitely going more into like alternative territory, a bit broader. you know, a little bit more of a mix of genres in that whole alternative territory. And I think we're going to see where we want to go next. I think this album's given us plenty of room to move.
Now, did you guys, what made you guys say like, okay, it's time for that debut album? Because I know a lot of bands, it's one of the, you know, the debut album is such a monumental release. So it's like a lot of bands want to really take their time. So what was the defining factor for you guys to finally be like, okay, it's time. We got to make this record?
I think it was definitely doing our headline tour in Australia and just being like, we don't have enough songs for a headline set. We need more songs. So I think the next step was really an album. We had signed to UNFD, and that was the next thing on like everyone's bucket list, was to do an album. So especially with all the touring that we were meant to do this year, it just made sense to have a whole bunch of new songs. So I think that was just like the next step for us.
You guys are relatively a young band. So like, as you guys are kind of growing up, while you guys are pursuing this band and, you know, touring the world, like, how does it feel growing up? Like, do you feel like you're losing your childhood, or do you feel like it's kind of opening your eyes to more, like more things to kind of like write about and kind of like present to your fans?
It's a bit of both. I mean, me and the guys have been playing music since we were in school. So, you know, we've been like, you know, touring and stuff since we were in high school. And I think you miss out on a lot of things when you're so focused on like your passion, and that you miss out like on a lot of the things that your friends are doing, and you don't kind of go through the same thing at the same time. And I definitely felt that like when we left school and people were, you know, were working and then could like go on holidays, or like could, you know, were going out clubbing and stuff, and like we couldn't do that because, you know, we had a show or we were saving up to go on tour. You kind of miss out on some things like that. But I don't think that we would want it any other way. Like, I'm very content with the way that my life has gone. And, you know, I don't think I've missed out on anything. I'm going to have lots of stories to tell when I get older. And if this all fizzled out tomorrow, I have some great memories. So, and I got to write an album about it. So, you know, that self-care is very much about like the year of our lives, of us experiencing all these like major highs and lows, and us just trying to figure out who we are. And if I hadn't gone through that, like, this album wouldn't exist.
2 questions in one. What were those challenges? Like, what was that biggest challenge that you guys faced in order to be where you guys are today? And then the second part of this is, what was the biggest challenge in making this debut album?
I think being young and going through a huge transition, whereas we had put out high hopes and that it like blew up for us, and all of a sudden,
which has been my favorite song, by the way. Like, I think that's like my favorite songs you guys have done.
Oh, thank you. And we all really loved that one. It's like the best to play live. But yeah, that song came out and everything just started like happening for us. And then we spent the whole of last year on tour and, you know, going to countries that we had never gone to and stuff. And I think that kind of doing all of that made us we were enjoying it when it was happening, but when you sit down and you're like, okay, what's next? You get a lot of anxiety of, how are we going to keep this going? And like, these next songs need to be so amazing, because if they're not, then we don't get to do this anymore. And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to feel like we didn't belong to be around these other bands, and we didn't deserve to be on these tours. And I think that was a challenging thing for us to get over, especially going into the album and being really nervous about what we were creating. In terms of the album, I would say that's like, it's definitely also the same thing of, you know, just putting a lot of pressure on ourselves. I got really sick during the album, which was my personal challenge, which was not ideal whatsoever. And I was out for like 2 weeks, and no one would let me into the studio because that was kind of the beginning. And everyone was like, oh, you're sick, you're staying home, like, you're not coming in. And I remember just the boys just recording as much as they could and like calling me when things were happening, and then kind of going off demos, and I just wasn't there, and I remember just being like so sad about it. So my parents got a dog so I could be happy, and we could have a dog in the house.
That must be like heartbreaking though, because it is your debut. Like, you want to experience that whole moment.
I just wanted to be there with them, and I couldn't. And I remember like as soon as I could like go in there, the first song we recorded was Undersized, and I still couldn't sing. And Stevie, our producer, was like, "Don't worry, these are just demo vocals." And I remember we just like recorded like some like, you know, just some scratch vocals. You can fix them up later. And I think those vocals ended up being like the vocals ended up out because we was like, they sound good, it's fine. So I just always want to back up like my immune system and be angry at myself.
Yeah, man, that's scary around that time, like getting sick around that time. Like, can't imagine what you were even like thinking. But like, I'm glad that you were able to finalize this like before everything really officially shut down.
Oh, we were so lucky. Like we finished everything. We had 2 weeks to do the composure music video, promos and everything. Jeez. And we're like, we need to get this done now, because if we don't get it done now, we're not going to be able to release anything. So like, let's go.
Damn. So, I mean, I'm sure that's not the first time that you guys have had chances, or not really chances, but times where like you have to pretty much just pull whatever you can and just make stuff happen because there's a last minute deadline or like a last minute show you guys got added on. Has this been the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I definitely think that putting that all together in such a short period of time was a huge challenge, and not really knowing whether it was going to be done. And then after that, putting together like future content when you don't know if you can even be in the same room as your bandmates was really weird. That's why Together ended up being a animation video, because we were like, we don't know when we're going to be able to film a music video. So we had this joke when we were recording in the studio that all we did was play Mortal Kombat, like in between, like when someone wasn't tracking, you'd be in the room playing Mortal Kombat. And then we're like, let's just do a music video with all Mortal Kombat characters. And then when like this all happened and we're like, we're going to have to do an animation video, we were all like, let's actually do that Mortal Kombat video. And that's where that came from.
So it wasn't so bad. Like it really like opened up opportunities, and you guys also made a video game for your fans. Yep. So, I mean, it ended up working out.
Yeah. I mean, like it's sometimes like jokes end up being really cool things that, you know, that you appreciate. Yeah, it was cool. Like I'm glad, and I don't think we would have done any of that if it wasn't for like this. Like I feel like lockdown has been a blessing and a curse for creatives. I feel like people are doing things they wouldn't normally have done, and they're experimenting, but I feel like it's also like stopping a lot of things from happening. So I think you just gotta take the good with the bad and just wait for it to all be over.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And I can't wait for like live shows to come back, because I mean, I can't imagine what you guys are going through, like being that you are a touring band. So it must be feeling crazy to be home so much instead of like being on the road or in a different place.
Yeah, it's strange. I think the last year, I think the longest we had been home was 6 weeks, which was like once. It was around like the Christmas time. So wow. I just think that we're just aching to be out again and to be touring. Yeah, it should happen soon enough.
Right. Well, Self-Care drops September 18th, which is like literally around the corner. Do you guys have any plans for like any performances, like online performances, to kind of like debut some of these songs for your fans?
So we are working on something to do for the album release, and I want to talk about it, but I also don't know how it's going to work, so I don't want to promise anything. But we do want to do something for the album release, just to be able to play all the songs live for everyone. But in Sydney, you are allowed to have a certain amount of people in a venue. So we're doing 2 release acoustic shows on the 3rd of October, which is really exciting. We put those shows out a couple of days ago. And I mean, that'll be the first time we've played all year.
It's crazy.
I know. It's October. So, but no, I think doing things, I'm seeing a lot of bands do a lot of really creative things online with live streams and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's something that we wanna see if we can do, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, fingers crossed. And then hopefully again for 2021, we'll get to catch you guys on that, what was it, All Time Low tour, right?
Yeah, Sad Summer. Very exciting.
Well, definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to the album. Thank you again for taking the time to talk to me. And take care of yourself. Be safe, and good luck with these upcoming shows.
Thank you for having me. Take care of yourself.